Good morning. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. For people who are not familiar, can you explain what the difference is between a tennis court and a pickleball court?
Pickleball court is the same size as badminton, so it's 20 feet by 44. It's much smaller, and then tennis court is 36 by 78 feet. So the size difference is quite big.
Is the main
Yeah.
difference of the courts. The net's still the same?
The net's a little bit smaller in pickleball by 2 inches.
Okay. And we're seeing more tennis courts being converted into pickleball courts. How do tennis players feel about that?
I've heard their complaints. Being a tennis coach, I hear all the tennis players complaining about the pickleball players taking over, lines being put up on tennis courts. But I think the city's done a good job at making everybody happy. They still keep enough tennis courts around in Windsor, I think.
Is it hard for people who play tennis to find a court to play at, or is it because their favorite court is now being converted?
I think that's the latter. Just being less tennis courts, putting up a pickleball court probably gets them a little bit rattled. And the noise factor of pickleball probably is a factor too.
The noise being the sound of the ball?
Yes,
Is
so
that-
when it gets hit, it's a lot louder than a tennis ball.
How much demand is there for tennis right now?
For tennis, it's steady. I still have my full-time job as a tennis coach, so but pickleball is picking up. The U.S. is huge. It's like the mecca of pickleball, but now Canada's catching up behind them.
How did you get into pickleball?
So in 2015, I started playing pickleball because one of my students invited me to a social pickleball place, and it was very inclusive. And then I really enjoyed it. I think people coming from a racket sport background will really enjoy the sport. And then after that, my wife Christine and I were having our second child then, and kind of put pickleball on the back burner. And then fast forward to today, we have 6 kids. And now that I think we're done having kids, I started playing professional pickleball too. And just seeing the crave and the hype behind it, it just makes sense to go into it. And it's, I've won majority of the singles pro tournaments here in Canada. I've beat the national players, but still the U.S. has probably the best players, and that's the place where to go if you want to compete.
And a lot of these top players, are they like you who started in tennis and have moved over to pickleball?
I'd say majority of them are. There's some few that just pick up a paddle, and I think that's what makes the sport so engaging because it's so accessible to anybody. Anybody can pick up the paddle. It's light. The pickleball is light. The learning curve is fast, so a child can just pick up a paddle and start hitting. My kids picked it up really quickly. So I think that's what makes it so fun.
I'm also wondering if we're seeing a lot of people go into pickleball. If that's an entry sport into racket sports, maybe they will turn up moving to tennis down the road. Do you think that it's a gateway sport to tennis?
I'd probably say the other way around. A lot of tennis players and other racket sports go to pickleball. I can't see pickleball players going to tennis because you're going into even harder techniques and shots, and the court is much bigger in tennis. But who knows if the pickleball develops fast and the more kids get involved through pickleball, it might be a gateway to tennis.
Are you seeing new members come out to the tennis club who are wanting to play pickleball?
Yes, there's quite a bit of demand. I think it's just a matter of having indoor facilities. I've taped up courts on top of the tennis courts at our tennis club. There's been some complaints about that, but I think it makes the pickleball community happy too that they have an indoor facility.
Why can't these two worlds merge together and find that inclusivity?
I think it's the stigma behind the pickleball. I think people see it as some dinky sport for old people, which is very wrong. It's not just for old people.
It's true because I play pickleball and people
Yeah.
who find out that I play pickleball say, "You play pickleball, but you're young."
Yeah,
And I'm like, "What?"
yeah.
Obviously, you have not played the
That's
pickleball.
right. Until you step on the court and you hit a few rounds, and you see the social aspect too, and it's so fun. Then you can be a good make a good judgment call on whether it's an old person sport or not.
Yeah, because it's quick when you
Yeah.
have doubles. It's really quick. I mean, singles, yeah, it's a bit more of a slower game, but with doubles, it's quite fast.
Yeah, and there's an aspect of pickleball that has a non-volleying zone near the net, which is 7 feet long, which makes it forces you to strategize the points, uh, and it gets you to think out there besides just hitting a ball as hard as you can.
People who are interested in playing pickleball or tennis, but more so pickleball, where do you start? How do people get into it?
I would say go to your local Walmart, pick up a few paddles. I'm sponsored by Selkirk, which is one of pickleball's biggest companies. If you want a more expensive paddle, they range from like $50 to $300 or $400. But just pick up a cheap paddle, even on Amazon, and then get out on the courts. The equipment is cheap, and then the courts are all around the city.
Hmm.
I'd say Forest Glade probably has the most courts.
Yeah. How young is too young? I'm wondering with your 6 kids.
My 4-year-old plays,
Does
so
he?
because the paddle's so light, he
Yeah.
can hold on to it, and as long as they can hit the ball over the net, which isn't that hard because you're so close to each other.
Hmm.
So it's pretty easy to learn.
Yeah, it feels it's a young, as a racket sport goes, it's probably easier for him to play that
Yeah,
than tennis, where you'd hit
absolutely.
it and then you got to run.
Yeah,
You spend more time running for the ball
yeah,
than
and he's
playing.
close to you. The closeness, I think, makes a big part of the social aspect of it and how inclusive it is, because you can talk to each other, and if I need to help my son, I'll just reach over the net instead of having to run 40 feet.
That's so funny.
Yeah,
Robert, thank you so much for coming in this morning. I appreciate
appreciate
this.
it.
Robert Rotaru is a tennis and pickleball pro player and coach. He's with Parkside Tennis Club at Jackson Park in Windsor. The